Hello and welcome to another episode of Farcast, the mech science fiction and fantasy themed podcast. I'm your host Ian, and joining me tonight are two interesting individuals from across the internet. You know both of them by now, Sir Dub, owner of the DC Bruins YouTube channel, and Raccoon, who is a raccoon. Shocking, I know. Today we're gonna turn to, yes, he's a very musical little trash panda. But today we're gonna talk about the latest incarnation of the BattleTech universe in video game format, Mechwarrior 5, which released almost 1 year ago, and is currently out on the Epic Game Store and supposedly is coming to Steam soonish.
Supposedly.
Yeah, we don't know when that's gonna happen. For sure, I don't think.
You're assuming there's going to be a Steam by the time that rolls around. You're
Yeah,
assuming there's going to be an internet by the time that rolls around.
yeah,
You're
maybe.
assuming that the great cosmic void that is this year won't like light the sky on fire and suck everyone's souls into like a second intergalactic dimension by that point.
At this point, I'm just praying for death. So yeah.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, Mechwarrior 5. I literally did not see a single trailer for it, a screenshot, anything. I saw one promotional image early on with one of the Warrior VTOLs, like 6 months before it came out, and it was just a 3D model they'd rendered in a separate engine crudely photoshopped it into a still image from the game with a lot of post effects added onto it that clearly in no way represented gameplay, but they were trying to sell it as if it was a part of the actual game. That turned me off, and at playing Mechwarrior Online, I did not look forward to Mechwarrior 5 at all. But a couple days ago, someone decided to gift me a copy of Mechwarrior 5, and I started playing it, and I fucking hated it. And now I think I kind of love it, but I also still fucking hate it.
Yep, that sounds about right.
Valid.
Yeah. So did you guys play MechWarrior 5 from the release, or what?
Yeah, I played it from Elite release, and I'm not sure exactly. Well, this is probably going to like contradict some of the earlier opinions on MechWarrior 5 I gave, but like I'm not sure if it's just terrible or just so mediocre that it feels terrible. Like it is a strange, disappointing experience to play MechWarrior Online.
Yeah, it doesn't help that it feels like so much is simply recycled from MechWarrior Online because the models are technically good. I think the design and art direction's a little off in some places. Some of the maps are actually pretty darn beautiful, but then you squint and go, oh, that's just the multiplayer map for MechWarrior Online rearranged. The only thing that's really new are the vehicles. MechWarrior Online did not have tanks or VTOLs. They did have turrets, but this game seems to use completely new turrets, which is, I guess, fine. The one thing they did add that I thought was absolutely A plus is building destruction. You can essentially peel apart structures and destroy entire bases, but the problem with that becomes there are only so many bases to blow up. And it feels like after a while you're just picking apart the same base over and over again, even if it explodes and collapses in a very interesting way. It's fascinating.
They also added a really new, innovative feature that will be hailed for years to come. Fahad.
Ah,
No.
yes, the greatest video game character of all time.
Truly, it is remarkable just how great Fahad is at just being despicable. I hate him. I literally
Stop
have
shooting up
not.
your mech, Lamau.
I have not progressed in the campaign just to avoid him and the Scottish tech lady Rihanna. Just both those characters are so terrible. I've
Both
just
of
been
them
doing the
just like
side quests.
staring at you as they deliver expositional dialogue with completely blank expressions, their soulless eyes gazing in, trying to
Commander,
find
we
some
need to
sort of
help.
void.
We need to help Adam Jensen help these farmers who will never, who will never get to know and will only interact by paying us with money.
Yeah, and Adam Jensen looks like Harrison Ford in The Force Awakens for some reason, and his model has no rigging or lip sync at all. He just sort of floats there on the briefing screen. It's So
And
strange.
I think the speaking character that got to me the most was honestly I think it was Spears. The single hologram is just like a dude that like shows up. It's just like a bust of him on the table, and there's like a little like sound wave playing beneath him whenever he's just like doing like giving a speaking role. Um,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's him.
but the thing that really got me was that like his model doesn't have hair as much. It is just like a bald dude with like vaguely hair-like material pasted thinly over it.
Yeah, and I get that hair is difficult to do, but it looks like they literally took the Fahad model and just glued hair to it.
Yeah.
Commander, this is Spears. I need you to get me some. I need to get me some praxis points. No, wait, fuck. I meant hair. Give me a toupee from the store. You
Yeah.
should have enough credits to afford one.
What
It's
was
made of
perhaps
myomer.
most off-putting is that he's talking over the radio, but there's no post-processing. There's no effect. Like, if you closed your eyes, you'd think in the game he was supposed to be whispering in your ear. There's
He's
no
just like in the
distortion or
room with
static.
you. Yeah.
Yeah, but then you have Rihanna who's sitting across you from the table and her audio's clipping. So it sounds like she's talking over a cheap $15 microphone, even though she's physically supposed to be across you in the room. And it's not like we added this in post. It's the voice actress was too close to her microphone and fucked up the audio, and we couldn't afford a second take.
Commander, I downloaded Discord Plus from Comstar so I can have perfect audio transmissions from across the galaxy. You need to get me those praxis points.
My God.
But yeah, the game's so fascinating for almost all the reasons I hate it. Every single time I play it, I always run into a unique bug. I've never run into the same bug twice, I don't think. Every single time there's something different. Like, I was playing earlier and there was a mech that for some reason glitched out visually, so it looked like in Windows 95 when a screen freezes and you drag the mouse and it like leaves that ghostly trail of the window everywhere, but it was a mech running around the map. I was like, what the
On
fuck is
Earth.
happening? It's just
Well, like,
bizarre stuff like that.
yeah, that's amazing. In all my time playing the game, I never encountered any kind of like bug in the game like that or anything else like you encountered. But when we're playing co-op or when you're playing, like the game just fucking implodes on itself. Like it's amazing. Like it's the like 20 millionth wonder of the world.
That it
With
is. It's strange.
I have not done like super much in the way of co-op. Is it somehow like is the spaghetti code like stretched even more taut over like the veneer that is the experience in that one? Is it just like really bad sort of like net code or something?
Like it makes the game like 10 to 20% more whack.
What I think it does is everything is rendered locally, like all the AI and everything. And so when there's any sort of disruption between the host and the players, it desyncs for a little
Mm.
bit. And that can cause some strangeness. Like when we were playing earlier, Raccoon and everyone else saw the helicopters in the game basically dancing around in the air and doing strange stuff.
Yeah, if I were to make a like an audio equivalent to the helicopter bug, it would be
I could not have rambled that better myself. But yeah, like sometimes it'll be weird stuff, like the procedural generation of the terrain will be off, so I'll get these weird spiky, extreme geometric shapes in the terrain that look like everything on the y-axis was increased 1,000%, but the rest of the terrain's normal. It's really odd. And there's like craters in maps that if you fall in, you won't be able to escape from at all, which is not so much a bug and more just really bad design. It's 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 fascinating, and I think I love it.
I think my personal favorite is anytime when you get like a particularly nice sort of like returning an NPC like tank, VTOL, or mech into its constituents' physics objects, and occasionally those physics objects decide that they need to like return to their home planet, and they
Oh
just go
god, yeah.
catapulting into the stratosphere.
Yeah, I've noticed that
What?
a few times.
Oh my god, yeah, like you kill a tank and like the turret it's Team Rocket. It blasts off again.
Yeah, it's
Or like
like
you take down a mech and it just starts spinning, just breakdancing in place for minutes on end. It's amazing.
yeah, picture in Skyrim when a giant smashes you with his club and you go
It's
flying into the
exactly
stratosphere. It's like that. They put too much force in whatever wank ass physics they're using.
Yep.
Just
All right, Kilroy,
bizarre.
I have a very important question for you.
Oh, go ahead.
So, like, you're a MechWarrior 2 veteran, right? You've played it a bunch.
Yes, yeah, I have.
All right. Does MechWarrior 5 have more spaghetti code? Is it more buggy than MechWarrior 2?
The only reason I'm hesitating on an answer is because there are multiple versions of MechWarrior 2, and depending on the version you play, MechWarrior 2, the DOS Mercenaries, which has like the ghost weight bug and missions that you literally can't complete because they didn't write the code properly, uh, that's worse. But those are like more extreme concentrated bugs that completely break the game. There are probably less bugs though. So it's like you're diluting all the bugs by having, 500 of them instead of 5 game-breaking bugs. So I'll say it's more buggy than MechWarrior 2 in general, if you want to include the more stable versions.
Like, more buggy than, like, 31st century combat, at least.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. There's no game-breaking bugs in MechWarrior 5 as far as I've encountered, but there aren't any in vanilla MechWarrior 2 either. Uh, Obviously, MechWarrior 2 looks a lot jankier because it's a lot older, and it really established a lot of how 3D graphics are rendered in general. You have to remember back then, 3D graphics did not exist for long. The closest equivalent was like Doom, and that's only pretend 3D. It's 2.5 dimensions, not 3. Um, but yeah, I'm going to say MechWarrior 5 has far more bugs.
But they're not quite as like crippling.
As far as I've encountered, but it's MechWarrior 5 is as vast as an ocean and as shallow as like a desert. It's not even a puddle, it's a desert. There's like a few molecules of, dihydrogen monoxide floating around, but
Yep.
Yeah, there's, like, a few cactuses which have little bits of water soaked in them, and, like, sometimes you get little, like, animals and, like, rabbits that, like, walk up and chew on them for moisture. Like, that's
yeah.
us, I guess.
Yeah, and what exists in the game is not necessarily bad. To compare it to Skyrim again, it's like if the only quests or things you could do in Skyrim were the radially generated, just generic quests, like go to this bandit hideout and kill this bandit boss. But that's it. That's literally
Right.
the only quest in the entire game. That's MechWarrior 5.
It's like playing Fallout, but the entire game is another settlement needs your help.
Yeah, and the main story missions, I can't even tell what the fuck's a main story mission because it all seems to be randomly generated. I'm like, there's quote high reward quests, which at first I thought were the pre-made crafted missions, but then I played enough and I'm like, oh, this is all just the same mission over and over again. Why are these even here?
Same
There
shit, different day.
there are, if I can like if I recall correctly, there are 2 particularly memorable like pseudo handcrafted missions in the game. Uh I'm not sure like how far you've been in it, and or if you want to like if MechWarrior 5 is a game that's worth spoiling.
I can't imagine there is a spoiler. I mean, who gives a fuck? They're not going to have much of a in the way
Yeah,
of budget for killing off characters or even introducing them. I got to imagine Spears bites it at some point, but he's not really a character. So,
Nathan goes to the Black Terrible planet and he destroys the Black Inferno land.
yeah,
It's really profound and cool.
yeah,
Yeah,
figures.
yeah, pretty much. No, the two that stick out to me are just as like an element of PGI, like actually someone like did a game design somehow. And you end up with one level where you have to like slog your way, fight through a city, defend a point, get to the next point, and you have to like defend a farm without that like said farm taking too much damage, right?
Mhm.
It's like it was they basically they strung a series of defense missions like over each other over a long map, right?
Yeah.
And at the very end, they drop a heavy lance against you as like an ambush. And it was like an actual oh shit moment because up until that point you're like, yeah, we're almost done with this thing. My lance is a bit beat up, but like we're all right. We can make it to the dropship. There is no dropship. There is no dropship, and there's a marauder in my face. Oh, an actual thing happens. That's cool.
Yeah, it's really very basic stuff this game's missing. There needs to be really simple missions where there's just, like, let's say early on, you still have your lights and mediums. There's a contract where you have to go kill an assault. Maybe it's an annihilator or something crazy, but that's the only enemy on the
Yeah, it's the
map.
only mech on the map. Yeah.
Yeah, and you just have to figure out how the hell are you going to do this with, um, whatever the starting mechs are.
A locust and like a few like
Like
rubber bands.
yeah, like a
Javelin.
centurion, a
Yeah.
javelin.
Yeah, I was brain dumping the names for some reason, even though they're some of my favorite mechs. But stuff like that's interesting, and it's not hard. Drop and drag, one mech into the map, and say, go kill it. When you kill it, the mission ends. That's it, done. The game does
From
not even have that.
Right. From what I can tell, or from what I understand of just like hanging out in the MechWarrior 5 modding Discord channels, is that the way that they set the game up in order to properly function as a procedurally generated experience, uh, it essentially precludes the ability to custom tailor specific missions or enemies or any of that sort. Even like the list that the sort of
The
like
fuck?
games infrastructure is using to like generate enemies is sort of like fixed, and it's hard to actually tweak that apparently.
Yeah, I briefly watched a few tutorials on the MechWarrior 5 editor, and that's the impression that I got. It's all kind of
It's all
wonky code. It's not an editor really. It's here's the code for the game. Figure it out, fuckers.
pretty much, yeah.
Like
Yeah.
you're serious about like them having to like sacrifice custom mission making to like sacrificing all of that to just make a procedural.
It feels like that is the case, yes. Don't
Like
quote me on it. Don't sue me if I'm wrong, but it feels like that's essentially what happened. The idea, it seems to me like they took a look at Harebrained Schemes battles tech, and said we could just do that, but like make it an actual like mech sim, which on paper and sometimes in practice is really fucking cool. But like the amount of sacrifices and like technical difficulties that the team had to go through in order to make a functioning product out of that, uh, robbed the rest of the game of the manpower and technical ability to like achieve and accomplish.
if that stuff about like them not being able to like make a custom mission because they made it procedural, like if that's true, I'm gonna fucking hurl.
Yeah, I believe it because PGI is not a company that has a lot of experience actually developing games. If I recall correctly, they'd only like made like a deer hunting game before MechWarrior Online, and MechWarrior Online turned into such a cash grab. They essentially decided, hey, we don't have to make a game. Just make a few more mech models. Don't change them. Just rearrange the skeleton. Keep on piling on new mechs, and we'll release a new map every 3 or 4 years, and that's it. Free money. Just, ugh.
They speaking as like an artist and illustrator, they put a lot of resources into their art department that maybe could have gone towards designers and coders.
Yeah, their art department did, if I'm honest, began to slip in the last few years, because the initial designs were really cool and innovative, like that Centurion and that early Jenner Commando, stuff like that's
The
awesome.
goddamn Hunchback.
Yeah, beautiful. But then you get to stuff like later on the Trebuchet and the Victor and like the Corsair, and it's like, okay, these are getting really blocky, and I feel like their silhouettes are not distinct or interesting. And even as someone who knows BattleTech intimately, I'm having a bit of trouble identifying the mechs at a distance. It's a little wonky. Yeah.
And like even like even with like map design, things get sort of inconsistent between both MechWarrior 5 and MWO. Because like you have that one, like the what is it, like there's Grim Plexus and Tourmaline Desert in MechWarrior Online, which are those like giant uh like obsidian spikes sticking out of this like ancient wrecked junkyard planet, or this one where you have like huge trippy bits of just like multicolored stone rising up. Like it's really cool and it's really imaginative, and it's like really well crafted and detailed, and has like a sense of atmosphere and presence and like a little bit of like actual polish. But then you have something like Solaris City, which looks like someone decided to make a mod of a MechWarrior level over a weekend and just decided to cram a bunch of buildings onto a flat space and then not light it.
And it
Yeah.
plays like shit too.
Does it? I haven't like I that was about the point where I sort of bailed out, so I have no idea what happened after that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
same here.
Not great.
yeah, like it's kind of hard to like make a statement on the maps because like I'm usually very focused on playing the game in MechWarrior Online and like trying to not get shot and like cussing at my teammates who have somehow like all died in the time it took me to kill one mech. But anyways, like that map is just really confusing and hard to fight in. Like there's no opportunities to really like engage people at long range, unlike the other maps.
I do like the bridges and whatnot you could walk across. It gives some degree of verticality to the map that other maps don't have. The concept is good. It's just the execution was kind of blah, and the game itself just doesn't lend itself to encouraging players to explore or do interesting things. I mean, take for example one of the earliest levels they made, that icy level, whatever the fuck it was called. Uh, it was initially very open, and you could explore these little caves off to the side and these crevasses, uh, and go into this wrecked dropship and see all this cool stuff, these ancient ruins. But then they eventually decided, nah, let's make it a flat plain with two rows of buildings on either side. And it's just going to be a snipe fest. Now all the cool stuff that was there earlier is now walled off or was deleted, so you can't explore it. It's just, it's deathmatch, 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 nothing else. There's no encouragement for any other type of gameplay.
Same with MechWarrior 5, Lamau.
Yeah, unfortunately, I can't believe I'm saying this, but I want an escort mission. Like,
Yeah,
holy
me
shit.
too.
When a game makes you wish for an escort mission, there's something wrong. For me, in MechWarrior Online, my favorite game modes are always Siege, Incursion, and Escort. I like the stuff where you could actually do something else besides shoot at enemies. Unfortunately, they were also apparently the least popular among that player base, so I'd never get to play it. But we need stuff like that, like a bit more
Where there's like,
dynamic.
what was the one where there were like 5 capture points across the map, and you had to stand in them to like build up, basically build
Conquest.
up into conquest. Yeah, that one was probably my favorite, just because it forced you to actually move around, and it forced lights and mediums to actually be able to do something.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it results
Conquest
in
was great.
something other than a death ball, which is cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. My only critique about conquest was the way they set up the rewards. Like, if you were piloting a light mech and you were to capture every single point on the map from the enemy and evade their fire and everything, you would get essentially no rewards for the mission, even though you single-handedly made the team win, because the reward system in the game was only set up for whether or not you kill something or do X amount of damage. If you help your team or accomplish an objective, you get squat most of the time.
Hey. The reward is pride.
Yeah.
Pride
remember,
don't pay my bills, son.
Some of the saltier players would threaten to report or ban people because they actually did the objective. Like, why are you shooting the generators on siege? We gotta grind up our sea bills. Like, guys, grinding should not be the point of the game. Let's have fun. Let's actually play it. But yeah, I could bitch about Mechwarrior Online all day long, if I'm honest. So
The
yeah.
best things in life are free, but you can give them to the birds and bees. I want money.
Wonderful. But yeah, we sort of got sidetracked on Mechwarrior Online, but Mechwarrior 5, essentially when it came out, it felt half-baked. I heard supposedly, originally it was supposed to come out on Steam and Epic, but then for some reason they decided to make it an Epic exclusive, and apparently so many people refunded their purchases that it made them reduce the budget to the game. I don't know if that's true.
I mean, I would hope so.
Yeah, I'm just like, guys, you could have had something good. Everyone uses Steam. No one uses Epic. I literally would not even have it installed on my computer if someone did not give me a copy of Mechwarrior 5. And the second I get sick of it, I'm uninstalling Epic and never reinstalling it again.
Yeah, I mean, the scheme was kind of successful in that way. Like, they got me to like download Epic so I
They
could play
got you in the
Mechwarrior
door.
5.
Hmm.
Yeah, like the thing is, like, I got Mechwarrior 5 because like a bunch of people on my old Mechwarrior RPG server had already got it and they were playing co-op, and I was like, oh man, I'm so jealous of them, and like I could play co-op with them. I'm gonna buy Mechwarrior 5. I just can't wait anymore. So yeah, I paid $60 for Mechwarrior 5 like a week after release.
Yeah, that's another thing. This game should not cost $60. It should be $20. That's
Yeah,
it.
it's definitely not worth that full price tag.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like I got paid holding the $60 bag, the $60 bag of dog shit.
Yeah, and it's the sort of thing. No, I don't want to bitch about this game. I want to enjoy it. I hope someone listens to this and goes, okay, we need to make these changes, be it a modder or someone from the dev team. I don't care which. Just someone go, okay, people like this stuff. We have to improve it. Let's make it enjoyable because, you know, if something's fun to play, people might actually want to play it. So let's make it enjoyable, and the Mechwarrior community won't be full of completely salty old assholes like me who complain about, you know, the good old days of 1995.
If I may transition us to the topic of the night, the thing that actually got me to pull the trigger on a on sale version of Mechwarrior 5 was
Oh
seeing
no.
an actual confirmation that the game would have and would support a mod editor, and that mods would be available and developed by the community.
Sweet segue. Yeah, so about that mod editor. Did we already talk about
It's
it? I feel like we talked about it before the stream. I have a
it's
memory of a
it's
goldfish.
there. I haven't had a chance to like poke around too much as beyond just like switching out a couple of sound files, but anyone
Yeah.
with Unreal or Unity experience, go for it.
Yeah, I have experienced modding games a bit. Back in the day, I used to make mods for stuff like Zoo Tycoon and Age of Empires. Now I just make mods for like Skyrim because they have the creation kit. So I thought, okay, there's a mod editor. This should be pretty straightforward. I'm going to do something simple. I'm going to make my own custom pilot. Yeah, that didn't happen. It's not straightforward. I don't know if anyone's even figured out how to do it. It's not like in the creation kit where you can literally copy paste, switch out the elements you want, and fire it up into the game. It just seems to be a tangled, complicated mess that it really does feel like they just uploaded the stuff they used to make the game itself, not even as a mod editor. It's 70 gigabytes. That's insane.
Yeah, like I could not install that on my solid state drive. Like it's too small and I have too much stuff installed on there. Like why?
Yeah.
Why even download that?
Plus, and this is not hyperbole, it takes 15 minutes to load a level in the editor.
God.
And
That sounds about
that's
right.
not hyperbole. Unreal, I guess I heard Unreal is like a really slow engine to begin with, but apparently with MechWarrior 5, it's so sluggish. Just you have to go make a cup of coffee, do your taxes, have a nap, come back, maybe it'll be done.
Okay, can like this is just bringing up the thought? Can you just picture now? Picture how frustrated you were trying to make just like load and edit or load and look around a level in the Mechwarrior 5 editor. Imagine now being one of the devs and having to like make serious changes within it.
Yeah, it's a nightmare. And
Those poor
Oh god.
fucking guys.
I don't want to blame the devs, because
No, like I can't imagine how much of a nightmare it would have had to be to like cobble this thing together.
yeah,
Fucking point out.
I've worked on various projects, be it films or video games, and it's usually the actual devs aren't at fault. Most of the time, everything that goes into the game, good or bad, is the result of the person in charge saying, I want you to do this. And half the time when they say they want you to do something, their decision is stupid and will hurt the final product, but you have to do it anyways. Like,
So what you're saying is that a well-developed game comes from a strong vision and good leadership.
yes, and a singular, clear voice, not a committee, which MechWarrior Online seems to be a jumbled mess of a committee thing. But
Mm.
I have no idea who's in charge of MechWarrior Online. I don't really care, but it shines through in the final product that it's a confused mess made by people who, at least the ones in charge, probably don't know what a BattleTech is or could give a rip about anything related to it. But the people actually doing the art seem to love it, and you get this weird friction between
Right.
parts of the game are amazing and parts are just utter garbage.
Can you walk me through your thought process as you went from I want to create my own custom NPC pilot for MechWarrior 5 and all of the tribulations that you went through to get to the point where you said I can't do this?
It wasn't that long of a process, honestly. Basically, I decided, hey, other people know more about this stuff than me. It looks like this editor has a lot of code in it. I'm not necessarily well versed in code. I could probably write something really simple if I put my mind to it. But I decided, okay, I'm just going to look it up. I'm going to Google it. I'm going to do the IT expert stuff and Google my problem. And it turns out that the only instruction manual was about a year out of date, from a beta version of the MechWarrior editor. And the manual wasn't clear. It was written by someone who was scratching their head half the time in the comments, like, I think this does this, or this does this. And it was like 65 pages or more of really in-depth, competent commentary that was trying to figure out the editor, but the person behind it couldn't figure it out. And so
Trying to figure it out.
yeah, and so I looked around, okay, has anyone else made a mod like this already that I can download and, pick apart, figure out what they did? And turns out, no, the only mods that exist are very basic cosmetic stuff, replacing sound files, gently adjusting, how often certain enemies spawn, and bug fixes, like in the base game, for some reason, you never will see variants of most mechs. The variants are glitched. They don't spawn at all, so you'll just see the same things over and over again. And any mech that's supposed to come into production after 3015 doesn't show up, so you won't see like the Wolfhound or anything like that. So you have to get a mod to fix those bugs, which should be fixed a year after release, guys. Come on. And that's it. That's the modding community, unfortunately, is just doing the bare minimum that should have already shipped with the game, or should have at least been patched out by now. And it's just disheartening, because there are maybe 50 mods total on Nexus and the Epic Games mod thing, and they're all so surface level and basic. After this long, it should be full of crazy mods. Replace every single mech in the game with an urban mech, something stupid like that. Make every mech, replace it with a model of Thomas the Tank Engine, except he makes Randy Savage noises. Crazy, stupid shit that modders do all the time, but it's just vacuous nothingness, or really basic stuff PGI should have done already. And
Yeah, like,
yeah,
can I do a bit of a hot take real quick?
sure,
I think that's been the entire night.
yeah,
Yeah, like on on the Mechwarrior subreddit. So I've been in fact, I think Kilroy, I saw you posting your first Mechwarrior first impressions video on Reddit,
yeah.
and in one of the comments, I saw this guy saying, "Oh, hey, install some mods. It'll make the game into something amazing. It makes it way better." And I just
One of
looked at
those
that.
statements was true.
Yeah, I looked at that guy and I fucking doubted him the instant I saw his words. I looked on like Mod Nexus, and yeah, the HUD mods and the AI mods and the mech customization mods, those are the only things I saw. So all those people out there saying that mods are the magic bullet for this game that just makes it into a masterpiece, they're just flat out wrong. I'm just
Yeah.
gonna say that.
If it takes a mod to make a game decent, not even good, just decent, it's a bad game.
Yeah, the thing about MechWarrior 5, right? I could install a bunch of mods to turn it into something passable, okay, or I could boot up MechWarrior 2 or MechWarrior 3 or MechWarrior 4 or MechAssault, and I could instantly have a much more refined, deep, interesting giant robot piloting experience. More adrenaline, more deep mechanics, more tactics, more atmosphere. So, why play MechWarrior 5? Everything else is either freeware, or in the case of MechAssault and MechAssault 2, you can get them on eBay and play them on your Xbox.
Literally, the only compelling argument I can think of is the co-op, which has genuinely been fun, even if that fun staring at the bugs and laughing at the terrible AI that gets stuck on rocks all the time. But
Fun with your friends is going to be fun with your friends, no matter what.
yeah, which,
Yeah,
you know,
I could
MechWarrior
be
isn't a social thing. It at least hasn't been. MechWarrior Online's kind of a boring slog for the most part, even with friends.
the thing is,
Yeah.
I could be Crowman and we could be scraping rocks against the flesh on our forearms and screaming out in pain, and it would still be fun because we're both friends,
That
and
sounds
we'd
like a
find
good
some
Friday
way
night,
to
dude.
yeah, we'd find some way to laugh at how the skin curls up as we scrape it off our arms.
Okay.
Like,
So we have been shitting, and I think rightfully shitting on a whole bunch of the very questionable aspects that make up what is MechWarrior 5. So I wanna try to take this into a little bit of a, I guess, creative or hopeful or positive direction. What do you think would be the one bit of modded functionality that would create that would have the greatest impact on the content people are able to make?
Well,
I
for
think
me,
We figured out how to change this, and because we figured out how to change this, we can do a whole bunch of things with it.
just, hypothetically speaking, right?
Mhm.
Okay, for me, it would definitely be scripted missions, because the thing about procedurally generated stuff is that you see something that's technically different every time, but even when you have a good experience, you know you can never go back to do this again. It's always going to be different. It's always going to be locked off. You're never going to have a special moment you can revisit and go, I remember this part. I remember playing this part as a kid. This is great when this thing happens. And I think this game absolutely needs just basic scripted events. And I know that's really broad, but we need to have moments we can play again and love, and that are handcrafted in a way that's meant to be delivered to the viewer or player in this way in a specific way. And we don't have that at the moment.
So essentially, we need to figure out a way to build our own level editor.
We may have to, looking at what exists.
Have you guys checked in with the Project Winter War folks?
I'm not familiar with that. I was
I
invited to
don't
the
even know what that is, I'm
30XX one.
sorry.
What was that, Raccoon?
I don't even know what that is. I'm sorry.
Project Winter War is it's an attempt to create a full conversion mod for Mechwarrior 5, telling its own fully unique story about I think like 300 or 400 years after the original BattleTech timeline. So they're just basically starting with a clean slate and creating all of their own stuff. I haven't checked in recently as to what their what their progress has been on their stated goals, but one of the stated goals for the team is to be able to create, or is to deliver a fully handcrafted mission or handcrafted campaign.
That
So
would be incredible.
I have a feeling if anyone is going to figure that out, it's going to be that team.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna have to keep an eye on that. What was the title again?
Project Winter War.
Project Winter War. Okay, I was thinking about, for some reason my brain said Project Winter Beast, and that's a terrible sci-fi B movie from the 80s. But
Or the best homebrew clan ever.
yeah, yeah. Raccoon, did you mention your idea yet?
Yeah, I've got a few ideas. Like, first of all, more mission types, definitely. Though we already mentioned that, so I'm gonna do a few more. I think if the game had like the ability to command two lances and the AI and controls to give more detailed lance commands, then that would go a long way towards making this game better. Like, for one thing, like having 4 extra mechs would really help with this game's like mission design, because
I'm quietly raising my hand right now. There's a thing.
Go ahead.
There is a mod that actually came out a couple of weeks ago. It's called Orbital Drop Support,
I
which
saw
gives
this.
you basically an autocannon that shoots it shoots like a flare gun, and you can load it up with particular like quote unquote ammo types. It will drop friendly AI mechs from the sky to help you in your mission.
dude,
Yes.
fuck yeah.
So like that was the thing that I discovered last week. I did a level 100 mission in a hunchback and an urban mech as my lanceman, and he dropped 12 assault mechs into the map, and it was just chaos and a slideshow of frames, and it was
Sick.
glorious.
Yeah.
That is fucking
Want
sick.
an extra 4 mechs? There is one of the launchers can give you like it either shoots 1 light mech, 1 medium mech, 1 heavy mech, 1 assault mech, and then every ton of ammo gives you 4 shots. Meaning, if you load it up with, say, the medium mech launcher and you give it 1 ton of ammo, you have started this mission with a medium lance.
All right.
Yeah.
That's fucking awesome.
Yeah, that one
That's
was
what I'm
actually
looking for.
amazing, and it was a bit of a game changer for me. It like actually made things look like a full on pitched battle as opposed to just like an actual like a small scale skirmish. So if
Yeah.
anything, that's one of the mods to get to just to fuck around with because it's glorious.
Yeah,
Yeah.
stuff like that's fun. There was another mod that I installed that makes it a little more balanced, because obviously if you can drop a bunch of assault mechs from orbit, that's probably not terribly balanced for gameplay. But but it's
Clearly no.
fun. But this one essentially takes all the war zone and defense contracts, and makes it so, normally you start the mission and there's maybe one allied mech with completely stripped armor. What it does is it tweaks the way that's generated, so now every mech, you don't have just one mech, you have up to 5 friendly mechs, as far as I've seen, and a bunch of VTOLs, and they all have varying amounts of damage from pristine to nearly dead, and it adds way more enemies, so you end up in the middle of a much larger conflict that feels much more natural, and it feels like you're a mercenary unit augmenting an actual,
Right.
army.
Do you know what the
Like,
name of that mod is? That sounds amazing.
It's subtler than you might think. Let me fire up Epic Game Launcher. And it tweaks a bunch of other stuff. Let me see. TT Rules with a Z, Realistic Warzone Spawn mod.
All right.
That should be in the Epic store. I think I saw it on Nexus too. Another mod
That's
that I
by the guy that did the AI mods.
yeah, I think I have to install those too. There's also another mod that I think is absolutely a must, and that's the weather improvement mod, because in the base game it's basically always clear daylight with no visual interference or like actual weather. So it's on the Epic Game Store. It's just called the Weather Improvement mod. You download that, and you'll actually run into night missions, which give you an excuse to use your night vision on your mech for once, even instead of just ignoring it as a superfluous feature. You'll run into blizzards in snow missions, basic stuff like that. It really adds a ton to the game because it doesn't make it feel like everything's just a big plain with some trees.
Right.
So that's necessary just for quality of life, even though it doesn't change too much.
Is it the one that like slows the clouds down a little bit from like the Mach 3 that they're going in the base game?
wait,
I didn't
what?
notice that.
Have you guys not noticed that?
No.
Load up any just like any level in like vanilla Mechwarrior 5 and
Too late for that.
look up and like you feel a little bit dizzy.
Yeah, maybe I'm just used. It could have been that I'm used to Mechwarrior 2, which has that exact same problem, where the sky's just bombing along. If
I
you're playing the Titanium edition.
I just didn't notice.
Yeah, it's one of those things. There's enough about this it's so janky. It feels retro, and I like it. Like when the mechs walk, the cockpit only bobs directly up and down in a way that's completely unrealistic. But it's
Right.
exactly like MechWarrior 2, so I love it, even though it's clearly an issue. Like I legitimately don't want that to change. Please keep that. Um, but yeah, about other mods I think would be necessary for quality of life improvement would be the ability to choose how you start the game. Because even though there are mods that can skip the initial tutorial mission, you're still
Oh,
stuck with the Centurion, the Javelin, and the Locust every time.
I believe
Um,
there's a mod for that.
oh, that's good. But basically, all I wanted was the ability to choose your backstory.
Mhm.
So I want to be like a millionaire that starts with 10 million C-bills, but I have no mechs, no weapons, nothing. I just have to buy all the equipment from whatever random planet I start at. And I think that would add so much to the game. Or I want to be like a guy in charge of a junkyard. So you start the game with a bunch of scrapped, banged up mechs. And you have to figure out, do you sell a couple of the mechs to fix up one you like, or do you run a mission with really damaged mechs to try and start your career? Just stuff like that. Have some imagination. I don't want to be the freaking Cavaliers every time.
Think
yeah.
there's two that might actually give you what you're looking for. There's like an alternate career start mod that lets you choose like what house faction you used to like work with, whether you were honorably or dishonorably just discharged, and gives you like a small selection of starting mechs.
Hmm.
And then there's a second one which is just a straight up like game file save editor where you can delete all of your mechs and give yourself 10 million C bills.
Yeah, I like stuff like that. Yeah, I just partially like the RNG. I like to be surprised in the game. This is
Hmm.
part of why I don't like the procedural generation stuff, because it's always the same. It's the same stuff. You always fight, 15 mechs, uh, on whatever mission, like the demolition type stuff. But
You
Right.
fight archetypes. You
yeah,
fight the shitty bug mechs, and you
yeah,
fight the shitty bug mechs, and you fight the shitty bug mechs.
yeah,
But this time there's a Shadowhawk.
yeah. But
What would you keep going?
speaking of, you mentioned the ability for the mod to let you choose which house you start with. Um, that's actually supposed to be included in the next update for MechWarrior 5.
Is it?
Huh.
Yeah, they're adding like 7 new mechs, which I could care less about because this game needs stuff besides mechs. They're adding infantry, which I think is
Yeah.
cool. They're adding some weird, freaky zero-G biome, which I think is great. I just wish there was more than just one new biome being added. Um, but you're supposed to be able to work for each Inner Sphere house as a soldier in their army, not just a mercenary, which I'm not sure how that would work, but I'm
Well, that's good.
intrigued.
I'm with the FRR. I hate mercenary scum.
Yeah,
Fuck you guys. You stabbed us in the back.
I'm just so
No, that's
curious. Like, how's that gonna work? Because that seems like it would need campaigns or a linear mission, because you wouldn't be in charge of your own unit and telling yourself where to go if you're working for, a house. Wouldn't you just be told to go where to go by your higher ups? This is
yeah, maybe
odd.
it'll be like Star Trek Starfleet Command, where like you get this randomly generated career, like this like different set of like missions that are mandatory but still randomly generated.
It
To just
could be interesting.
like Mechwarrior 5 the roguelike.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah, I mentioned bring this up earlier, but I think I might have a way, hypothetically, to cheese the game into making scripted missions. And this is just a thought. You can duplicate and make new game modes that are supposed to be procedurally generated. If you were to take those procedurally generated base game modes and tweak them so much so you make a completely new game mode for a specific scripted mission, you might be able to cheese the game enough to make it look like it's actually a designed encounter. But you'd have to make every mission be its own game mode, which would be weird as fuck.
Hmm.
But if it works, right?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, if it's held together with duct tape and chewing gum, I think that's an idea
Yeah.
that
You're
might
on par
work.
with PGI at least.
Maybe.
What is like looking at the game as it is and just like taking that and setting that aside as whatever it like currently exists as. What in your mind is the ideal MechWarrior 5 experience that you can create or somehow get to using mods? Like, what would be the thing that would make you go, "That's what what we would want to aim for." Like, that's a really fun and unique thing we could do with this game.
Uh, Project Winter War.
Yeah.
Basically, make another one.
I'm not going to be a broken record and say encounters again, but I think having the AI be a bit smarter, like even if you're going to procedurally generate it, like have groups of tanks act together, like have them coordinate, have the LRM carrier stay in the background and volley you from a distance, where with the faster tanks going around to flank you. But instead, they just kind of charge at you regardless of what they are, including the LRM carriers, until they come within stomping range and just squish them and move on. It's that's something that would really help some intelligence from the AI, because in BattleTech especially, it's about using your wits. The bad guys are supposed to be just as skilled or be just as well equipped as you are, and you have to outsmart them and show how clever you are. But if they're all so dumb and they have to make up for their dumbness by having hordes and hordes of enemies, I feel like I'm a superhero, like an ultra powerful warrior just destroying planets with, my own little battle mech because I'm just so much smarter and more powerful. And I don't want that from Mechwarrior. I want to be just a grunt that might get
Exactly.
vaporized on this mission if I screw up once. I want it to be like Dark Souls in a way, where people compare games to Dark Souls too much, but I think it's somewhat of an apt comparison, where, everything. If something goes well, it's because you did a good job, and if it goes poorly, it's because you did a bad job, not because of necessarily RNG or stuff like that.
Yeah, I want it to be like MechWarrior 3. MechWarrior 3, like it does pit you up against like bunches of different mechs that outnumber you, like MechWarrior 5 does, but MechWarrior 3 always felt way more tactical. Like,
Mhm.
there was the MFBs for one thing. Like you could, bring them in and make sure to like repair before you face another pocket of enemies. But of course, like if you get your arms blown off, then the MFB can't fix that. So you've got to play smart. You've got to, well, you can't just rush into an encounter in MechWarrior 3. Like,
Mhm.
if there's a bunch of enemies coming up, the best thing to do is probably stay back, snipe them, take out their most strong assets, and then charge in and finish them off. But with MechWarrior 5, like, there's no tacticalness at all. Like, there's no strategy. Like, you just sort of like go up to like the mission objective, and by that time, you're probably just being swarmed by like helicopters and tanks and light mechs, which are going to engage you from like 200 meters. So, like, taking LRMs is pointless. Just take like autocannon 10s, SRMs, and medium lasers. They're the most versatile things. And then
Yeah.
you just fucking like blast them until they're all dead, and then you go for the mission objective.
Yeah. Well, just so we don't go on forever, we're at the 1 hour mark. So as we try to start to wrap up, let's change tone a little bit and say each of us, what's one thing you genuinely and not ironically like about MechWarrior 5?
All right. One thing I like about MechWarrior 5 is that it gets autocannons right. In a lot of the other games, like the autocannons are kind of dodgy in terms of their balance. Like with MechWarrior 2, like there's this like their velocity is kind of weird, like, and it's hard to tell when they hit, and you can also drain ammo for them really quickly. So, uh, and with MechWarrior 3, like the lighter ones are just plain useless because the velocity is so slow, and like they take a while to reload and shit. And like with MechWarrior 4, they're actually pretty good in that. But this game, MechWarrior 5 gets them right. They all feel like they have a ton of impact. They all fire fast enough that like they're really practical against vehicles and stuff. And like even the smaller ones feel like they do enough damage. And I also like the difference between like burst fire and single shot ones. Like the variation there is really cool. Definitely.
Yeah, that's honestly one of my favorite aspects as well. I absolutely love that there are different types of autocannons. And that's something that I've always been kind of wishing for. I think I might have mentioned it in the past, but that's cool, and I love it. Good choice.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'm kind of going to swing back to the previous question for this reason.
Hmm.
The thing that has been sticking with me about MechWarrior 5 for the last couple of months is two things. One, the mod that gives you a save editor, and two, the ability to copy and paste mission codes in the instant action menu.
Oh yes, I forgot about that.
So
That's really good.
Hmm.
the thing that immediately like popped up in my mind is my ideal MechWarrior 5 experience. I would never actually drop as part of the Lance. I would run a MechWarrior campaign for 4 other players using a save editor and the ability to copy and paste different mission types and say, you're playing this one now. This is a very heavy defense mission because you pissed off the local noble from that planet two towns over. These are the consequences of that. And like have an actual role playing game in which Mechwarrior 5 takes place as combat encounters.
Yeah, that would be cool as hell. I would absolutely be down for that, both as a player and as, I guess, a DM. That would be amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like
mhm.
any sort of like mod that gets us closer to that sort of city on a mountaintop, it's like that is good for me in my books.
Yeah, that would be glorious, and I would definitely want to help out with anyone that has any inkling on how to actually accomplish that. Personally, I gotta say, the one thing I think MechWarrior 5 actually does right, which I really like, is making the mechs feel scarce. Actually getting a
Mm.
new mech feels like it takes a lot of effort, because we all have our favorite mechs. You know, Raccoon, you have the Vulcan and the Orion. I have, I don't know, maybe the Catapult or the Rifleman in this
The
game.
awesome.
The Awesome is pretty awesome. Uh, but it feels like you're really working to earn it. Like in MechWarrior 4 Mercenaries, you could just go to the mech store and click on the mech you wanted and would have every mech in the game at a certain point. Just like, oh, I'm going to get 3 Mad Cats and a Thor, and yeah. I feel like I'm at the grocery store going shopping. But in this, it's like, oh, God, I finally managed to salvage a catapult, and I'm going to take my time, I'm going to fix it up, I'm going to lovingly customize it, even though the customization's a bit limited, a lot limited. But when you finally get it, it's like you're a kid on Christmas. I have my favorite thing after hours of gameplay, and this is awesome. And I genuinely, unironically like that effort.
And on the flip side of that, if you're playing with particular restrictions on your campaign, like self-imposed restrictions, when that mech gets cored and it goes down and you have to sell it because it is destroyed, it is so delightfully crushing.
Yeah, yeah. Another thing on that note is the fact that your pilots can die.
Oh
Uh,
man, that was an actual shocking moment.
Yeah, like there was a character I ran into. The character's name was Lassiter. I know it's randomly generated, but she was a woman that kept saying all these really dark, cynical things, like, "Oh, I can't wait to headshot somebody. Oh, this is gonna be
Jesus.
great. Like, I can't wait to kill all these people." I'm like, "Oh, you're so grim and dark, and I love it." And then, you know, after 15 missions, you of
You
course
have a
eventually
personality.
she eventually ended up dying, going out like, you know, finally, today's a good day to die, or something like that. I'm like, oh
That's
no. I
I
love
actually
that
have a bit of a
character.
similar story to that. In
Yeah.
my very first playthrough of the game, there is a mission in MechWarrior 5 in which you have to basically like slog through a factory built like full of half-built zombie mechs, and the whole thing's like dark and foggy, and there's fire everywhere, and it's like a slog that you barely survive through. That was when my first pilot died.
Oh,
Just like
wow.
in the depths of this like horrific situation. You just like
Dang.
and like the moment that like actually got me, like PGI did a game design,
Yeah.
is when you get out of that mission and you get back on the dropship and you look up at this pilot's just wrecked Thunderbolt. And you know, okay, that just happened. Great.
Yeah.
Pour one out
Yeah.
for the Thunderbolt. Pour another one for Lassiter.
Yeah, it's great. I especially love that when they die, they have unique dialogue options. And but you don't necessarily know if they survived or not, because it could be that they say they're ejecting, but it gets cut off by static or something,
Or
and you're like,
it
oh
could pull the
no.
Vindicator thing where like you when you try to eject, you hit your head on the cockpit really hard.
Oh God, yeah. Just and you have to wait till the end screen and go, oh no, are they dead? Are they injured? Sometimes they get injured for like 4 months of game time, and you're on like a continuous mission contract, so you're like, I can't wait, I can't heal this pilot. I can't do anything. I just have to go alone, and their spot's going to be empty.
That
That's like
feeling of just like,
soul-crushing.
yeah, that like desperate feeling of barely being able to scrape by. They did get that. They did nail that crush.
Yeah, and on a final note, I like the. I think the only game mode that really is enjoyable, unironically, is the missions where you have to complete like 4 or 5 missions in a row with only what you have in your inventory. That's legitimately, unironically, fun. The tension of like, oh no, can I afford to take a hit in this mission? Like, do I want to give my lance mates my good mech? Because maybe if they have a good mech, I'll encounter like an assault and need that extra firepower. Or do I want to give them my shitty mech because they're just gonna, get killed because they're AI, and just genuinely tense decision making stuff like that.
You're just grinding down into this campaign, and you're running out of mechs, ammunition, and coffee.
Yeah, and people die during it, so it's great. But yeah,
Kilroy, people die, and it's great.
yes. Yay, death. Yay, murder.
Death is great.
But yeah, I'm glad we're sort of wrapping up on a good note. Was there anything else you guys wanted to add?
We've just about got it in my end.
Yeah. All right. I think precisely, Raccoon. We can't go an episode without that.
Every time.
Yes. Alrighty. Well, it was a pleasure talking with you guys. I think we had a fun little discussion, both complaining and gushing over our favorite franchise and its latest game. So, for you viewers, maybe leave a comment. What's your favorite and or least favorite part about Mechwarrior 5? What do you think should be added in mods? And if you enjoy this video, if you enjoy our whinging, please feel free to leave a upvote. Tell your friends. Get a tattoo with our names on it.
Please, God, like and subscribe.
No, we're not doing that bit. Nope.
Please.
No, we're ending it. I'm sorry you had to hear this, Dub.
No.
But, yep.
Like and subscribe or I'll die.
All right, we got to break his other kneecap.
No.
I'll get the bat.